Hi guys, Ken here, Postcards from Cebu. Last week I talked about the perils, or possible perils, of marrying a younger Filipina. And today let's talk about an older Filipina. Couple of things to keep in mind at the beginning of this. In the Philippines, which is a very, very Catholic country, divorce is illegal. It is extremely difficult to get a divorce. So a woman that has been married generally stays married, okay, especially legally. There is a process called annulment, but they are very, very difficult to get and very expensive to get. So the average Filipina cannot afford to initiate an annulment process unless she's very wealthy. So with that in mind, I was on, by the way guys, I recommend the Living in Cebu forums. Just search Living in Cebu forums. If you're seriously interested in a Filipina in the Cebu area, I highly recommend joining the forum. And I got some of this information came from exactly that. I was looking at it today. Once a woman is married, she's committed to that husband, and if you fool around with her and you get caught, you're facing jail time, and that's no lie. And I'll tell you, let me read a little section of this from a news story. It was from 2008, but it still applies today, okay? When David fell in love with a beautiful Filipino woman, he embraced the opportunity to escape his humdrum existence as a machine operator and begin a new life in an exotic land. But within weeks of leaving his friends and family to join his girlfriend in her native country, Philippines, his dream of happiness has vanished to be replaced by a nightmare he could never have anticipated. After fathering a child with Cynthia, separation from her estranged husband was not complete, Cynthia's separation was not complete. The 35-year-old David became an unwitting victim of the Philippines legal system. He and 29-year-old Cynthia were charged with adultery and thrown into a rat-infested prison for 4 days. They're very serious about adultery in the Philippines. Now, when I say that, there are a lot of caveats, obviously. One, the husband must have still been around somewhere close by, at least aware enough of it that he could file adultery charges. I mean, in some cases, the husband left the wife many years ago and he's far, far away. Maybe he's an overseas Filipino worker or something like that. That's always possible. But you really need, and the point of this whole discussion is that you really need to look into what's going on with eyes wide open, thinking with the big head, not the little one, okay? There are a lot of beautiful women in the Philippines. Vivian caught my eye the instant I met her. And I know you probably feel the same way about your Filipino girlfriend that you're chatting with online, and you're anxious to go meet her, but you do want to keep in the back of your head that there are a lot of little gotchas out there that you want to steer clear of, okay? And in this same article, well, it was a series of posts on the forum. The original poster talked about a note about a friend of his. When he meets a woman and he seems like he's interested in her, he will actually pay the 450 pesos and ask her to go get a Cenomar. Now, Cenomar is an acronym. It means Certificate of No Marriage. And if you've watched any of the other videos that Vivian and I have done, we actually went and got Well, she got the Cenomar before I arrived, but I had to go to the U.S. consulate and get the equivalent of a Cenomar from the U.S. government, where I had to swear an affidavit that I was free to marry. The Philippines are very strict about that. So what the poster's friend was saying was, well, if he seems like he's really interested in a girl, then he will ask her, and he'll pay the 450 pesos. It's about $10. He'll pay the money for her to go get a Cenomar so that he can review it. The astonishing thing is that he finds out that a very high percentage of them are already married, even after swearing that they are not. Okay? So you got to be very, very careful with that. And asking her to get a Cenomar, is kind of a, you have to work that out in your own mind. But Vivian had to get a Cenomar, and I had to go to the U.S. consulate and get a document before we could get our marriage license. And Philippines are very strict about that. You got to make sure you got that. An annulment is another thing, and I have personal experience with a couple of friends, female friends who live in the Philippines, who are separated from their husbands and dating Westerners, and they keep telling me they're working on the annulment. Well, the annulments are very expensive, difficult to prove, and hard to get. So if you really love this woman and that's what you want, it's going to take a lot of time and money in order to make that happen. Just saying. And in the Philippines, the legal system can drag on, especially for a civil issue like that, can drag on forever and ever. So an annulment, not only does it cost a lot of money, very difficult to prove, but it could take years. 10 years. In one case, I know a woman she's been separated from her husband for over 10 years and still has not been able to secure this annulment thing. So be careful, guys. Just like I said, when dating younger Filipinos, you got to be careful and think it through with the big Ed. What you're going to do and what are the consequences, how things change when she comes to the U.S. Same is also true of an older woman. You have to think about how things work in the Philippines, and maybe asking for a Cenomar is not such a bad idea. I don't know. If you think you can do it without pissing her off, by all means. That's one way that you can prove it. Otherwise, her husband can come back and file charges against you for adultery, and you will end up in jail, like our friend David in the article. He spent 4 days in jail, and then I think they fled and went back to Britain. I think it was British. They went back to Britain, and but they won't be able to return to the Philippines. They'll have that hanging over their head. So anyway, those are some things to consider when marrying an older Filipina. Make sure you think it through really well. Okay, guys? As usual, up here, subscribe button. Please subscribe. We'd love to have you with us. In the comment section below, leave any messages, questions. And as an afterthought, if you need, particularly in the Cebu area, Cebu, Dumaguete, and those areas, if you need a resource, a private investigator, do some looking into the background of the girl you're interested in, just send me a private message and I will refer you to a guy I know that's very good. He and his wife, it's an American guy and a Filipino wife, and they do a lot of those kinds of investigations, can turn up that kind of stuff for you. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Love you. See ya. Bye.